I mentioned the distinction between overwhelm and overload, right? Overwhelm is an experience, overload is a condition. Overload is you just got too much to do for the time you've got. Overwhelm is a feeling you can have when you can't find your shoes, right? Well, that distinction is kind of fundamental to understanding how life works. Because there's two things going on simultaneously, always. Circumstances and experience. Circumstances have a solidity to them, right? Whatever we want to say metaphysically about the nature of the universe, if you get hit in the face with a stick, it hurts, right? It's like, that's what I mean.
I see the table. I see the chair.
That's what I mean by circumstances. Yeah. But I might have three completely different experiences of getting hit in the face with a stick. I might be delighted. That was fun. Do it again, Dad. Right? I might be horrified. That was miserable. That sucked. That's awful. I might not care. That's experience. Now, we have these two domains conflated consistently. We treat them as if they are one and the same, as if the circumstance causes the experience. Anyone would feel the way I feel in this circumstance. Anyone would struggle the way I struggle in my conditions, with my history, whatever the circumstance is. Now, there's a few reasons why being able to distinguish between circumstance and experience is powerfully helpful. The first is, if our experience is a consequent of our circumstances, then we are in fact victims of the world. Now, we may be successful victims, right? We may be able to do something to our circumstances to control our experience. But most of us can't, and even those of us who sometimes can, sometimes can't. I've worked with some of the wealthiest people in the world. They do not control every circumstance. And if they think that is the only way they can have a great experience of life, they suffer. Now, it doesn't mean either that what we think of as positive circumstances always leads to suffering. No, I've met a lot of really happy, really rich people and a lot of really miserable, really rich people. And I met a lot of really happy, really poor people and a lot of really miserable, poor people. And in fact, none of them are really happy or miserable. It just depends what moment you talk to them in. Because experience is infinitely fluid. Experience is constantly changing. I can pretty much guarantee that none of his three children are having the same experience now, 3 hours or 4 hours or 10 hours later as they were then. But the circumstance hasn't changed. They were still late for the race. Now, the reason that experience is so fluid is because it's made of this energy, this creative force in the universe, this spiritual power that, for lack of a better word, we call thought. Not you're thinking about something, like the particular thoughts that you think about something. It is the thread out of which we sew the fabric of our reality, the fabric of our experience. And your experience, because it is made 100% of this energy and 0% of circumstance, 0% of other people, 0% of what's happened, what's happening, what will happen. It's your domain. It is the only domain in which we have the possibility of mastery. Not control. We don't control that. You can't think or not think on demand most of the time. Occasionally you can, but most of the time you can't. I've met yogis who can't. I've met the guys who've written and the women who've written the books on the power of positive thinking, and they can't. But we have a lot to say. It's our domain. We can And I'm going to use the word I've been using lately. I like the word. I know some people don't like the word, but accountability for it. Hey, it's my experience. I don't necessarily have any accountability for the circumstances I find myself in, but I have ultimate accountability for my experience. Not control, but it's my experience. And it can change in a heartbeat if I let it. If I don't think it's tied. The reason it sometimes looks like it's stuck is because we've got it so conflated that until the circumstance changes, we think our experience can't change. And we don't notice how much it does change. We dismiss. When I was depressed, I dismissed every moment of happiness. I was still depressed. I don't know what happened. I was having something good happened. That must be why I felt good that day. But that's not how it works. Now here's the thing that's cool about accountability. If we are 100% accountable, if our experience is 100% in us, from us, through this power, this creative power of thought, then we also have ultimate freedom. Because there is no circumstance that we need to be frightened of. Because a circumstance can't create fear. Only we can. Now, I'll distinguish fear. Those of you who've been around me know I distinguish fear from danger. Like there's a biological danger signal in the human animal and in every animal. That's different to fear. We don't suffer from that. That's a real clear and present danger thing. We suffer from fear, from scaring ourselves with the power of thought, from the innocent misuse of the gift of thought. And so it looks like there are circumstances to be sought out because they'll give us better experiences, and circumstances to be avoided because they'll give us worse experiences. And so our world shrinks to a size that we feel is manageable. But if no circumstance can create any experience, the world is my oyster. I can try anything, and I don't have to try anything because my experience is mine. And don't order yet, it gets better. Because we are made of this intelligence that grows trees and spins planets. And if we let it, it always guides our experience towards a higher level, towards a higher plane. We are innately resilient. You can push it down and push it down and push it down, and it doesn't matter if you've been pushing it down for 20 years, the second you let go, boom. It's irrepressible. But we're just really good at pressing it, at depressing it. We can do that for years and years and years, until sometimes we get so tired of depressing ourselves that we bounce back in spite of ourselves. That's the hope for all human beings. It doesn't matter how long you've been in an experience, it could be over in the next heartbeat. Circumstances don't work that way. Some circumstances are absolutely changeable. We can have a lot of influence on circumstance, and if you've lost your leg, you've lost your leg, and if you're in prison, you're in prison, and if you don't have any money for now, you don't have any money for now. And if people you love die, they died. That's not up to you. That's not your domain. You can play in that domain. You can do some pretty cool shit in that domain. But it's so much easier if you can see that it's nothing to do with your experience. Being more successful will not make you happier. You may have set it up in your thought-created reality that the secret to happiness is this, and so when I have this, then I will be happy, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because you are both the prophesier?
Sure.
Who makes prophecies? Yeah. I don't know. You are both the seer, the prophet. Thank you.
I know.
I knew there was a word for it. I just couldn't find it. You are both the prophet, and you are the person who profits from your prophecy. You are the fulfiller of the prophecy in the domain of experience, not so much in the domain of circumstance. Right? The masters of the universe die. Right? right? The people who think, anyone remember Shelley's poem? I am Ozymandias, king of kings, look upon me. And all that's left are the feet and the poem, right? The mighty king. Right? But experientially, you are the mighty queen, the mighty king, the emperor of your own domain, the domain of experience. Doesn't mean you control it, but you are in charge of it. It is yours. Nobody can make you do anything in it. And when you start to see that, you realize, oh, I can kind of learn how to play in here. I can kind of see how this works and realize, oh, I don't have to do anything about this experience. It's going to change because the nature of thought is it changes. It's transient. That's why I love the metaphor of clouds for thought. They look solid, but you can fly right through them. As a kid, whenever we were on an airplane, I used to look down on the clouds and I used to want to get out of the plane and rest in the clouds. It looked so comfy. I'm glad I didn't figure out how to do it. I didn't understand how clouds work. When you're in a cloud, it's turbulent. That's what it's like to be in a cloud. But it's still a cloud. The more I understand the nature of clouds, the more I can fly anywhere, no matter how cloudy it is, and the more I know when maybe not to fly. Because there's just a lot of clouds today, and it's going to be pretty turbulent if I try and push through it. I can if I have to, but I don't have to most of the time. So when we start to see our 100% accountability for experience, we have so much freedom in the world of circumstance to create, to play, to see what we can do to improve them, to make them better. We'll see more clearly, because we're not trying to fix ourselves by fixing the world, which bits of the world actually need fixing, and which bits of the world we can do something about. And there's a lot of freedom in that, to put our energy and attention where it's most useful, where it's most helpful in our circumstantial world and in the larger circumstantial world. When it is not going to make me happier or sadder, when it is not going to stress me out or pressure me or discourage me or disappoint me, I'm free to play. I'm playing with the house's money. I wrote in the Inside Out Revolution, imagine that I hire you because you're extremely good looking and charming, to come and gamble at my casino to encourage other people to gamble. Because when they see you having fun gambling, they're more likely to come out and have fun and gamble. It's a job, right? And I'm going to pay you $500 a night, and I'm going to give you 10,000 in chips at the beginning of the night to go out and gamble. Now, at first, you might still play the game and try to be really sensible about your bets and try and, do everything the right way. But you start to realize that the nights where you lose it all, you go, damn, and then you go get your $500. And the nights where you win big, you go, wow, and then you go collect your $500. And at a certain point, you realize you really are just playing with the house's money, so you try shit. You go, let's put it all on red. Oh, well, short night. Right? Let's put it all on red. Oh my God, I wish this was real, right? It's so fun. The game of life really becomes a game when you see it is not the cause of your experience. It doesn't work that way. Thought creates experience. Thought is the source of this, and it lets us dance in the world of circumstance in a completely different way. It gives us scope to play with life, to enjoy life, to experience life without fear. The quote, it's my favorite quote I put at the front of the Inside Out Revolution, is if the only thing people learned was not to be afraid of their experience, that alone would change the world. Because with that kind of ultimate accountability to see, oh, I don't have to fear this, because this is changeable. This is my domain. This is nothing to do with anyone or anything else. Then this world starts to change because you have all these people out here playing, trying to create the coolest circumstances they can, but without any pressure, without any need to succeed in order to be okay, in order to stay well. Really nice to see you, Michael. In order to do whatever there is to be done. And the more you see that, the more your relationship changes both to circumstances, because now they just kind of look like circumstances. Okay, this is what's going on. What do I want to do with it, if anything? But also with experience. Because now whatever's going on, like if a horror movie was 72 years long, you probably wouldn't buy a ticket. But when it's 90 minutes, you do, in droves, because you know it's going to end. So it's kind of fun. Well, experience is like that. Thought comes and goes. It's continually changing. So you can go ahead and get caught up in scary shit and get caught up and stress for a minute. You don't have to avoid it. Oh God, don't go in that one. It's like, all right, let me poke my head in. Oh, God, I hated that. Okay. Let me go in here. Oh, I'm going to stay and watch it again from the beginning. Right? And we get to play. We get to play with experience. We don't have to fear it because it is not permanent. It's going to change. I grew up in New England. Mark Twain said about New England, if you don't like the weather in New England, wait a minute. Right? Experience works like that. If you don't like the experience you're in, wait a minute. And if you let it, it'll change. And because the intelligence that spins planets and grows tree is what we're made of too, it changes for the better. It comes back to a better place. Now, don't order yet. Because when you are not thinking so much about how to control your experience and how to affect your circumstances and how to change the world so that you can be okay, it gets pretty quiet up here. It settles. And when we're quiet, there's the peace of God. There's the peace of life. There's the peace that passeth all understanding waiting for us. It's that deeper part of our nature, the world of deeper feeling that is in every human being from birth. That's why babies don't need therapy, because they're just sitting in it. The gift of thought hasn't yet fully begun to form their experience, so they just rest in peace. Until the circumstances, the discomfort physically, the hunger, the tired, the whatever it is, the wetness that they're sitting in, right? It's like, ah! And then boom. As soon as that is taken care of, they're right back to peace. But as we grow up, we start creating our own hunger, psychological hunger. We start creating our own psychological mess in our nappies. We start creating our own psychological discomfort. And innocently, because it's what we've all been taught, we look to our circumstances to fix it. But it's not in the domain of circumstances, it's in the domain of experience. And the domain of experience is your domain. It's 100% you. Not your fault, not your, but it comes through you. It is in you. It is nowhere else. That's why when I was talking to Beto yesterday, I could say, show me your nose, show me your values. They're in different domains. And in that distinction is ultimate freedom. Not the freedom to always be in the experience I want to be in the state of mind I want to be in all the time, but to notice what's going on now. I read a lot of mysteries and thrillers, and something that I don't know if it's a new trend in the writing or I just hadn't noticed it before, but like the last 4 books I've read, the character falls out of an airplane or is, in a bar fight. And then the first thing they do after the fight is they check to see how their body's doing. Like any broken bones, anything, yeah, this is a little off, this is gonna hurt. But they check to see how they're doing before they go about their business. So they know if anything needs immediate care or if it's just needs time. Well, psychologically, we can all do that. In any moment, we can check in and go, how's it going in there? All right, wow, there is a lot going on. Okay, all right. Anything need permanent? No, no, no. It's going to be just, okay, it just needs a little time to heal. That's fine. And I can carry on with my day. Sometimes we check in and go, oh, it's freaking great in here. I'm just going to kind of groove on this and do whatever occurs to me to do, because from here, this is a great place to do stuff from. And it's ever changing. But it's all you. Like, your experience is yours. It has nothing to do with this. And that confusion creates most of the confusion that people experience in the world.